Greetings, kindred. I'm so sorry I've taken so long to get this next video done. I've had so much going on. I can't even begin to tell you, but hopefully I can be back on track and finish up this book of Ezekiel that was written by Pastor Lancelot Knight of the former King's Chapel. And we are in Ezekiel chapter 28. We left off with verse 10 the last time, so we're going to begin with 11 and go through to verse 19. Okay, let's get started. Today's Bible study contains a lamentation, which is the sad story about the little prince who had become an evil king. Ezekiel 28, verse 11. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, 12, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith Yahweh, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. We know that Tyrus means rock with a small r, and the king of Tyrus refers to Satan, who we learned in our last study wanted to be king, like our rock, who is Yeshua Messiah. But as it is written in Deuteronomy chapter 32, which is the song of Moses, referred to in Revelation 15, that the overcomers will be singing at the return of Yeshua, this little rock is not our rock. Deuteronomy 32, verse 31. For their rock is not as our rock. However, this rock was once a very honored and esteemed individual by our Father and all of his children too. That would include you and me. There is no mention of Satan having a little red suit and a pitchfork, is there? He is very handsome and very charismatic, a real charmer. Verse 13. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Yahweh. This verse documents that we are not talking about the literal human king of Tyre. This is all about Satan. The next part of the verse is very insightful if you have eyes to see and are familiar with Yahweh's word. Verse 13 continued, Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. First, we see that Satan was created just like every other son of Yahweh, but we see that a workmanship was also prepared for him. What in the world is that? Here's the definition of the Hebrew word workmanship. Melakah, Hebrew 4399, from the same as Hebrew 4397, Malak. Properly deputyship, i.e. ministry, generally employment, never servile, or work, abstract or concrete. Also property as the result of labor. Business, cattle, industrious, occupation, pied, officer, thing, made, use, manner of work, manship, such as workmanship. Lucifer was given a very important duty or position. Do you know what it was? It may surprise some. Notice in verse 13 that every precious stone adorned him. This simply means that Satan wore the breastplate of a priest of Yahweh, a very high position indeed. That's right, and verse 14 will show he was anointed to this position by our Father. You see, these stones listed in verse 13 are exactly the same stones that the Levitical priests of Israel wore. Let's read the description of the priest's breastplate so we know for sure. You can compare stone for stone if you like. Exodus 28, verses 17 through 21. And thou shalt set in it settings of stones, even 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. And the second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. Note to the deeper scholar, this entire third row is missing from Ezekiel 28:13 in Hebrew, but it is supplied in the Septuagint. Verse 20, and the fourth row, a beryl and an onyx and a jasper, they shall be set in gold in their enclosings. So what do these stones represent? Verse 21, and the stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes. So we now understand that this morning star, Lucifer, was a high priest of Yahweh, even over the children of Yahweh. Think about it. Let's return to Ezekiel 28 and read more about him. Verse 14, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of Yahweh. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Yahweh anointed Lucifer as one of the 2 protectors of the mercy seat, which is the seat where Christ sits. So our Father set him very high upon the holy mountain of Yahweh, which is the seat of authority of the kingdom of Yahweh. In other words, Lucifer also had a very high administrative position. There is no separation of church and state in the kingdom of Yahweh, for all men who execute civil duties are righteous, Yahweh-fearing men. So the civil and religious in that sense are united, just as Yeshua Messiah is both King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Now notice in verse 14 that Lucifer walked up and down in the midst of the children of Israel, who are those stones of fire we just read of, i.e., Yahweh's children. You see, our Father is a consuming fire spiritually. That's why these stones are called stones of fire, for they represent his children. Your documentation is found in Hebrews 12:29. For our Yahweh is a consuming fire. So Lucifer really had it made at one time, didn't he? He had it all, as we say, and he was perfect in his ways, for a while anyway. Verse 15, thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. Uh-oh, something has gone haywire. Yahweh created this son Lucifer perfect, which means without blemish, undefiled. He created him not only to be beautiful, but also morally upright. That means at one time Lucifer did have honor and integrity. However, Yahweh also gave all of his children free will, which is the ability to formulate their own thoughts and desires, and to give their love and loyalty to whomever they so chose. So Lucifer, once a beautiful morning star, an admired prince of our people, lost his brightness and became Satan, the dark one, the evil one, because he chose to love himself and money and power rather than his Father. Here are the Hebrew words for perfect and iniquity. Perfect, ta-mim, Hebrew 85:49 from Hebrew 85:52. Ta-mim, entire, literal, figurative, or moral. Also, as a noun, integrity, truth, without blemish, complete, full, perfect, sincerely, or sincerity, sound, without spot, undefiled, uprightly, whole. Iniquity, evel, sort of sounds like evil, doesn't it? Hebrew 57:66 from Hebrew 57:65. Aval, moral, evil, iniquity, perverseness, unjust, unjustly, unrighteous, unrighteously, wicked, wickedness. When he was created, Satan was Tamir, but he became Evel. The next verse tells us how he became that way. Verse 16. By the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled the midst of thee with violence. The NIV reads, your great wealth filled you with internal turmoil, and you sinned. Hey, he loved things and money. Well, now there's a surprise. I've never seen a priest or minister or government official corrupted by the love of money before, have you? And thou hast sinned. This Hebrew word for sinned is chata. And it is extremely important that we understand its meaning, for contained in this word is what Satan did that was so evil, that it caused our Father to destroy the beautiful prehistoric world that then was, 2 Peter 3:6, along with the magnificent dinosaurs that roamed the earth. Chata, or kata, Hebrew 2398, a primitive root properly to miss, hence figurative and general to sin, by inference to forfeit or lack, expiate, repent, causative, lead astray, condemn, bear the blame, cleanse, commit sin by fault, harm he that hath done, loss, miss, offend, offer for sin, purge, purify self, make reconciliation, cause or make, sin, sinful, sinfulness, trespass. The proper meaning here is causative, to lead astray. Causative, as defined by Webster, is 1. Effective or operating as a cause or agent. 2. Expressing causation, specifically being a linguistic form that indicates that the subject causes an act to be performed or a condition to come into being. You see, Revelation 12:4 declares that Satan drew the third part of Yahweh's children away from Yahweh and caused them to fall to the earth, which is a figure of speech meaning he caused them to fall from the Tamarim. Let's see, how do we pronounce that before? The Tamim. Okay, so he caused him to Tamim. Okay, let's read that again. He caused them to fall to the earth, which is a figure of speech, meaning he caused them to fall from Tamim, perfection, from the good graces of our Father, and from listening to and following him. Satan sinned. He led Yahweh's children astray. Revelation 12:4, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. That drawing away of Yahweh's children is the gross sin that Satan committed. It wasn't so bad that he himself became corrupted, for he could have been removed from the scene and life would have been continued on as perfect as it was in the very beginning when Genesis 1:1 came to pass, and Yahweh created this beautiful earth, and his sons were happy and delighted and shouted for joy. That's in Job 38:7. But through his abuse of power and misuse of the political, religious, and educational dynasties, along with the iniquitous trafficking of his ship of Tyrus, Satan corrupted and caused many, many of Yahweh's children to be led astray from the righteous ways of Yahweh, and therefore from Yahweh. Our Father was very angry about all of this, and he decided to destroy that which he had created. You can read about that destruction at his fierce anger in Jeremiah chapter 4. So, after he judged Satan and sentenced him to death, Yahweh then destroyed that first earth age and created this present one, whereby all the sons of Yahweh would experience life and death in flesh bodies, born innocent of the knowledge of what happened in the world that then was. Because of his love for his children, and in order to give them the opportunity to be saved from the same sentence Satan received, i.e., eternal death, and return unto him, their judgment, the judgment of their souls, has been postponed until after the 1,000-year reign of Yeshua and his saints. For a more detailed study of the overall plan of Yahweh, see the booklet, The Plan of Yahweh. And I'm hoping that I can do an audio of that booklet shortly after I finish this book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 28, verse 16, continued. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of Yahweh, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Satan was removed from office, and the breastplate of the 12 stones was stripped from his vesture, and the first judgment of a soul took place. Satan was found guilty by virtue of the overwhelming preponderance of the evidence, and his death sentence was pronounced. We will read in the next verse that there was also more to the sentencing given to Satan by the judge than just death in the lake of fire. Yahweh already stated in the previous verse that because of the wealth and financial dealings he has been filled with violence, which doesn't mean that what we normally think of as violence. It is the Hebrew word chamak and means corruption, or kamos, Hebrew 255 from Hebrew 2554, kamak. Violence by implication, wrong, by meton, unjust gain, cruelty, damage, false injustice, oppressor, unrighteousness, violence against, violence done, violent dealing, wrong. So Satan became very corrupt and drew away Yahweh's children, and therefore Yahweh put the fire to him and fired him from his high positions. Notice what else Satan did. Ezekiel 28, verse 17. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. Oh, he became an egomaniac too. He just thinks he's the greatest and people can't do without his wise, liberal ways. Too many people told him that he was a great guy, and they followed after him and loved the gifts and the wealth he generated with his ship of Tyrus. Verse 17 continued, I will cast thee to the ground, I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Check out this sentencing. Satan is going to get a great big lesson in humility, though not for his sake, for he has already been sentenced to die, but for the benefit of the other children, to serve as an example and a reminder to them. Remember, we read from Isaiah 14 that during the millennium, he will be cast into the pit, and everyone who walks by will narrowly look at him, meaning they will look down on him and see him as the slime ball he really is. This will be embarrassing, if it is possible to embarrass such an egotist, and very traumatic for Mr. Ego, who was once a big, self-important man. As the final straw, because of the multitude of his iniquities and his trafficking with his corrupt ship of Tyrus, this once perfect Son of Yahweh defiled the very sanctuary, the holy place of the Almighty Yahweh. Verse 18, Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, and it shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. That word, I'm going to stop here for a minute and add that word traffic should mean a lot to people these days, because we have an awful lot of trafficking, don't we? That's not just traffic that you have out here where cars get all jammed up, and this is like human trafficking and child trafficking. Nothing new under the sun. What can I say? Okay, but I digress. Let's continue. Satan is called the son of perdition in the New Testament, 2 Thessalonians 2, because he is the son who has been sentenced to perish. Perish doesn't mean to be fried forever and ever, as many traditional non-Bible teaching denominations teach, as they blindly follow after the traditions of men. It means he will be devoured, i.e., consumed, and he shall never be any more. Verse 19, and all they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shall thou be any more. If you have understood the corrupt workings of the ship of Tyrus and the method of operation of the king of Tyrus, then you should be able to see that same ship sailing swiftly upon the seas or people this very day. And the king of Tyrus, he's coming soon in person to take over the helm of that ship, the New World Order, and it will be a time of peace and prosperity for all. I'm going to stop here for a minute because this is an interpretation that many Christian churches hold. They believe that Satan is going to come here. He's coming in person to take over the helm of the New World Order. Well, I submit that he's already here. He's already taken over the church. That's what that hidden power, that hidden dynasty of religion, it prophesies that Satan would be in control of the church. And guess what? He is. I mean, look at what we have in the churches today. They observe Easter, which is heathen, adopted from the pagan practices back in the groves when the pagans would hold their sexual orgies and use eggs as fertility symbols and bunnies as fertility symbols. And we know that Yeshua was not born at Christmas. He was born during the Feast of Tabernacles. So we have all these pagan practices that have been adopted into the church. And I submit it was done by Papal Rome, which is that fourth beast kingdom. So what we have here is we have currently in Christian churches, Christians worshiping the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah, which is Jesus Christ. And if you've seen some of my other podcasts with Brother Rick, you'll know that the name Jesus actually means a son of Zeus. That US at the end actually stands for a son of Zeus. And Christos, or Christ, means anointed of Zeus. So this is some of the alterations of our text that have caused Christian people to worship the anti-Messiah, the false Messiah, who's already here, sitting in their temples. Yeshua said, narrow is the way that few find. Do you think Christianity, with the largest religion in the world, with billions of members, is the narrow way that few find? Think about it. Okay, let's continue on. You see, most of Christianity is expecting an antichrist to show up who is really evil, murderous individual who will cause much bloodshed and horrendous, frightful tribulation. That is why the rapture theory, the quick trip out of here, is so popular. It promises to spare their little old flesh bodies from being wounded. But the fact is that the tribulation of Antichrist is spiritual warfare and not war against the flesh and blood. Okay, I'm going to stop here a minute. He says that Christians think the Antichrist is going to be really evil. Well, do they think Jesus Christ is really evil? No, they think he's just all about love and he loves everyone. And we'll find out that's not exactly true, is it? But let's continue. That is why we are instructed to put on the gospel armor, Ephesians 6, and be prepared to stand against the fiery darts of Satan. So not only is the rapture theory not biblical, it is based on a false concept of what the tribulation of Antichrist is all about in the first place. All we need to do is continue to remind ourselves that Yeshua Messiah has foretold us all things. Mark 13:23. But take heed, behold, I have foretold you all things. Then too, he has not only told us, but he has provided us with types in history of how it is and how it shall be. This was best said by the wisest man besides our Messiah who ever walked under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Well, I think we've certainly seen that tonight in this 28th chapter of Ezekiel. So here are my platforms if you want to check out. I'll be posting this to one of these. Most likely BitChute for right now. And actually, no, I'm going to be posting this to YouTube and putting a link on Telegram and perhaps Rumble as well. Okay, well, you all have a blessed evening. Yahweh bless, and we'll see you next time.